Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this rainy Thursday slash Friday morning for our local government retirement planning conference. We're happy to have you all. My name is Marie, and with me is,
Margaret Hendershot.
and we're going to talk to you guys today about retirement. Just a few housekeeping items for you all. There are handouts in your dashboard. There are 5 handouts that you can print that includes a copy of this presentation. There is a question panel. If you would like to ask questions, definitely use that panel to ask those questions. We're going to do our absolute best to make sure that we answer you live. If not, we'll get back to you in about 24 hours. Um, Another thing that we want to cover is if your question is intensely personal, we're not going to cover that. Your best way is to send us an email by logging into Orbit using the Reach a Counselor tab. That's the best preferred way to reach us and ask your question, or you can always contact our call center and we can answer any personal or account intensive questions that way. Another thing is we do not cover purchasing in this conference. Purchasing is again intensely personal. What I can say is a lot of information is on our website, myncretirement.com. So you can visit our website, type in the search bar purchasing service, and a page will come up that is dedicated to that. And also the forms for service purchases have a lot of information, probably more than I could give you. And again, any questions about purchasing, definitely call or email. Um, Margaret, you have anything to say this morning?
Of course, of course. Good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone in local government employees retirement system world. We certainly appreciate your attendance this morning. You know, Maria and I just so love talking to folks about some of the best benefits truly in the country. And so Maria's going to do a fabulous job of talking to you about LGERS. And I then have the opportunity to talk to you about likely your 401k. Many in local government world indeed hold a 401k. And why is that? Well, that's because your employers support your readiness. And how wonderful is that, right? You actually have maybe employers that provide a contribution into your account, or maybe they offer you a match where you have to put some money in, but they would then put money in for you as well. So we're going to talk about how the plans work together. What are some specific differences? I mean, there really are differences, although they are retirement plans offered by the state. That is indeed their commonality. They do function a little differently. And Marie's going to do a nice job kind of giving you a summary then of the two plans, and then certainly then considerations for you as you are getting then to retirement. So it's never too early to plan. It surely is never too late. And we're here to help make sure that you know the questions to ask. So Marie, thank you so much for having me today, and I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Margaret. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will get started. Again, remember, there is that question panel if you have any questions. So the first thing we're going to discuss today is the different levels of our employment, right? And what you should be looking at in regards to retirement, dependent upon the level that you are on. So if you are a new employee, fresh to the local government or state, because I know sometimes people work both, what would you want to do? What would you want to look at in preparing yourself to retirement? I haven't even been here a year, Marie. What am I looking at? So you want to enroll in a supplemental retirement plan, our NC 401k or 457 plan. That is Margaret's wheelhouse, and she's going to talk about that a little bit more with you guys, but that is definitely something that you want to do. Enrolling in that plan will help you maybe consolidate any other plans you have. You can roll them over to our 401k or 457. You want to select beneficiaries. This is going to be a running theme through our conference today is beneficiaries. You want to make sure that you have the beneficiaries that you want designated for that benefit. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We just want to make sure you're covered and the family friend, whomever gets what you designate. So definitely select beneficiaries. You are all going to leave me, and that is homework I always send people away with. Log into your Orbit account or your 401k 457 account. Make sure you have those beneficiaries designated and it's the proper person that you would like. You also, again, talked about this a little bit, want to check for rollovers. If you have other plans, think about consolidating. If you're a mid-career employee, someone like myself, close to retirement but not quite there, what are some of the things you want to do? You want to review your MAR statement, my annual retirement statement. They should be released by the end of April. We typically send email blasts, notifications that they are available. You guys can only get those in Orbit. So make sure you log into Orbit, print that document, because there's no one who can send it to you. It's only accessible in your Orbit account. If you don't have a home computer, definitely reach out to your employer, and they can help you get a printed copy of that document. But you want to obtain that and review that. And you want to increase your contributions. I'm with the local government employees retirement system. You contribute 6% of your salary. That is set by law and cannot be increased or decreased. But that's where Margaret and the 401k or 457 plans come in. You can increase those contributions. So that's definitely something you want to look at, especially as you're nearing towards retirement. And those of you on our call today who are nearing retirement in the next 1 to 3 years, right? You're really thinking hard about your options. What are the things you should do? You want to review that MAR statement. Definitely still review your beneficiaries because you still want it to be the way you want it to be up until the point you retire, and then have to redesignate beneficiaries for the retiree death benefits, which are a little bit different than active employee benefits, which you guys will see. We'll cover that later on in the presentation. You want to do estimates, get those calculation of benefits in. For some people, it's just that simple. They can't afford to retire, so they're not going to look into it anymore. But you may be closer or better off than you think. How do you know unless you get that estimate? With estimates, you can only do those in Orbit. Our office, you cannot speak with the counselor to prepare a benefit estimate. That is definitely something that you have to do in Orbit. But what we can do is help you enter the right information to prepare that estimate if you log into Orbit and you have any questions about the data that's being asked of you. Review your payment options. We're going to talk about those in detail a little bit down the line in our presentation. You want to create a My Social Security account. Social Security is a part of your retirement as a whole. Our goal at the North Carolina Total Retirement Plans, between your local government retirement, your supplemental retirement with NC 401k and 457, and your Social Security, our goal is between the three to help you recover 80 to 85% of your pre-retirement income. So yes, Social Security, although it doesn't have anything to do with our benefits, it plays a big part as a whole. So you definitely want to register for their website and prepare those estimates. You want to consider a age 50 catch up. Margaret's going to deep dive with you guys on that particular bullet point, the age 50 catch up. Of course, you want to set that retirement date. Once you set your retirement date, 120 days prior, you can start the process with our office. You may want to start deep diving into some very account specific questions that you may have. But setting the retirement date, that's the first cog in this wheel of the retirement process, is setting that date. And then look for one-time contributions. Margaret's going to cover that with you guys about those one-time contributions. So let's do a little bit of an overview about the plans who we have here today. So I am local government / teachers and state. The retirement system, we are a defined benefit plan. So your retirement benefit, it's a guaranteed monthly lifetime benefit. So you get a check every month until you pass away. If you take a reduction, should you choose to do so, you can leave a check for someone else's lifetime once they have passed away. And again, we'll deep dive a little bit more in those options here in a minute. And your teachers in state, local government defined benefit plan, that is based on the benefit. There's a formula that we use to calculate your retirement and the payment option you select. So the retirement formula is your 4 highest years of salary, four highest years of salary. We times that by the accrual factor for local government, that's 1.85. Then we times that by the total years and months of service at retirement. That includes any sick leave. And then we divide by 12. And that is your monthly benefit. If you are retiring early, there is a reduction factor that is included in that benefit. The 401k, 457, those are defined contribution plans. So your participation in those plans are voluntary. You actually have to sign up and set your contribution amount. And your benefit is based on your contributions and your investment results, not a formula like me over here with local government. Straight formula here. But with Margaret, it's based on contributions and investment results, how much your monthly benefit would be going forward. So how is the local government pension funded? Well, it's a partnership. It's between us here at the local government retirement system, your employer, and investment contributions. So as the example, for every dollar you contribute to the pension fund, your employer will contribute $1.80, and then the investments on the pension return about $5.40. All of this goes into this pot here to fund the lifetime benefits for you and other members of the local government system. Big thing, retirement eligibility. We need to know when we're eligible, right? When can I get out of here? When can I start planning for my new phase of life? So if you want full retirement benefits, the requirement for that is age 65 with at least 5 years of membership service. For local government, it's creditable service. And the difference between the terminology, membership service is just that. Every day you get up, you go to work, you get paid that month, that 6% comes out of your check and is reported to us, you get a month of service credit. That's membership service or hard time. For you all, local government, that age 65 with 5 years of creditable service includes membership service, but it also includes if you were to purchase service or unused sick leave. So for example, if you had 4 years of membership service and a year of sick leave because you are in local government, that is 5 years of creditable service. As long as you're 65, you're eligible for retirement. Another full retirement requirement is age 60 and have 25 years of creditable service. I hear a rumor that it's age plus years of service equal 85. No, that's not the case. You need to be age 60 and have 25 years. You can't be 59 and have 26 years and that make full retirement because that's 85. No, has to be age 60 and 25 years. And then of course, the most general requirement, the one everyone knows about, 30 years of service, no matter how old you are, full retirement. Then we have early retirement. So for early retirement, age 60 with at least 5 years of creditable service, or age 50 with at least 20 years of creditable service. So those are those requirements to retire for full and early retirement benefits. If we have any law enforcement officers, thank you all for your service. You guys, because of the nature of your job, your requirements are a little bit different. So what you will want to do to see the eligibility requirements for any law enforcement officers is review the local government law enforcement handbook. and you'll see your guys's um, eligibility requirements. You have different ones. You don't have to work. Top of my head, one of them is age 55, I believe, with at least 5 years. So you guys are a little bit different. So definitely review the handbook to check out your requirements. Retirement options. So for the retirement options that we offer to you, you have 6. The first option is maximum allowance. The maximum allowance payment option is based on that formula. The 4 highest years of salary times the accrual factor times the total years and months of service at retirement, divide by 12. If that number comes out to be $1,000, let's say, then under maximum allowance, you would get $1,000. Please note that any estimate that is provided to you via Orbit or our office is gross. We do not provide any estimates with taxes or anything like that included. So you will only see gross figures. We won't really know your true net amount of your check until you've actually retired and gotten that first check. Then we have option 2. Under option 2, you choose to take a reduction in what you receive per month. But at your death, your beneficiary would get half of that, or excuse me, all of that reduced amount. So instead of $1,000 under maximum allowance, you may get $800, let's say, under option 2. But at your death, your monthly survivor would get that same $800. Then we have option 3. Option 3 is again a smaller monthly benefit, so you are taking a reduction in what you receive per month, but at your death, your beneficiary would get half of that. So using our example, if under option 3, your benefit is $800, at your death, your beneficiary would get half of that, which is $200 or $400, excuse me. So exactly half, 50%. And again, these are only gross figures. We have option 4, Social Security leveling. So this particular payment option, it does not have anything to do with Social Security. All we do is use their information to pay you a larger amount until you're actually eligible to receive the benefit from Social Security. At that time, your benefit will be reduced 100% by that estimate we use from Social Security between the retirement system benefit and your Social Security benefit, because you are now 62, that should equal out to be what it was before you turned 62. That payment option, if you are interested, when you apply for retirement, you will need to provide us with an estimate of your age 62 Social Security benefits in order for us to do that calculation. Also under option 4, it does not allow for a monthly survivor. So if you choose option 4, at your death, the monthly check would cease. Then we have option 6.2. Option 6.2 is just like option 2. You take a reduced amount. At your death, your beneficiary will get that same reduced amount. But under option 6.2, in the event that your beneficiary passes before you can jump back up to that maximum allowance payment option. And just so you know, the amounts for you as the retiree under all these payment options do differ because it has to do with your age and the age of your monthly survivor. So if you have a retirement estimate prepared and you use me, for example, the numbers will be based on me. If you decide to name a different monthly survivor, that will change your figures. So just always note that as well. Then finally, we have option 6.3. Option 6.3 is just like option 3. You take a reduced amount. At your death, your beneficiary gets half of that. But under option 6.3, if your beneficiary passes away before you do, you are able to jump to the maximum allowance. Under option 2 and 3, if your beneficiary dies before you, you stay at that same dollar amount. So that's what makes those payment options differ, is the ability to pop up if the person you designated as your monthly survivor was to pass away before you. So those are the payment options. I suggest when you apply for retirement, if there's anyone that you are thinking about leaving a monthly survivor benefit to, please provide us their information. We will do the calculation. You will see the dollar amount. You still have to later on say, this is the payment option that I want. I'm a big fan of making informed decisions. So that's the best way to go about it versus not having us calculate the survivor option and then you decide later you may want to see those figures. Well, you would need to provide us with that person's information then, and then we have to do the calculation, and it can or may cause a delay. Most likely it will in your application process. So again, if there's anyone you're even thinking about when you apply, include their information so you can make that informed decision, because you'll see all of the different payment options, the dollar amounts for you and that person. So without further ado, Margaret is going to come in and talk about some retirement readiness. Margaret?
My favorite topic, Marie, retirement readiness. And of course, many of you on the webinar today are here because you're trying to get ready for retirement. And that indeed is something, this slide is really one of the only slides within the presentation that kind of talks a little bit more big picture. Marie did a fine job of talking to you about the details of the pension plan. When can you get one? What kinds of payment options do you have? Just wonderful. But we did poll the audience. I know everything's a survey nowadays, right? Everything's a survey. And we looked at everyone in the local governmental employees retirement system world and said, if you have the pension only, if that's your only source of income in retirement, are you retirement ready? Now, I do need to actually give you a little bit of a definition. And retirement readiness is really not necessarily about just wanting to stop work. I know we all have those days, right? But retirement readiness is actually a financial term. And what it really means is, are we able to replace up to 80% of our current income for all of our anticipated years in retirement? So the really good news on a day before a holiday, it is indeed letting you know you could likely be in retirement as long as Marie asks you to work for unreduced benefits. I know, how wonderful is that? But that does take some planning. It really does. I will also caution you, 80% may not necessarily be exactly what you need. There's a true phenomena of the adult children living back with you. Now, you know how much they eat as adults. You might need more than 80%, right? How about necessarily you've paid off your mortgage? How wonderful would that be, right? You might need less than 80%, but 80% is kind of a recommended goal in terms of you being able to replace that for all of your years. If indeed you hold the pension only, 56% of LGERS employees are able to actually then be retirement ready. Now contrast that then with the left side of your screen that says when you add additional resources like a North Carolina 401k, like a North Carolina 457 plan to the assets that you're going to live on for all of your years, you are 78% likely to be retirement ready. And that's the group we all want to be in. We want to be in the group that's financially ready to retire. We may not be financially ready to retire when we meet eligibility. And that's really what this slide is actually kind of bringing to your attention, that retirement readiness is really gathering all of your income sources. What kind of sources are you going to have from LGERS? What are you going to get from Social Security? How much have you saved in your 401k? And is your employer contributing to your 401k 457 plans as well? This is actually just to let you know there are going to be some tools Marie and I are going to talk about in just a little bit that help you to know not only what you're going to get, but then how does that add up for you? Alrighty, so as we go on to the next few slides, my role here today is to talk to you about the supplemental plans. These are defined contribution plans. So you've added up your income sources. You've gone on SSA.gov and set up your Social Security account. You know what you're going to get. You're going to go on your estimator as you log into your Orbit account and figure out what necessarily you're going to be able to receive then from LGERS. And you're not quite adding up to necessarily what you need. I certainly want to encourage you that even if your employer is contributing on your behalf, there are indeed benefits for you to contribute as well. You can actually start contributing to a 401k or 457 at any time. It is not tied to open enrollment. You can start at any time. I was looking for my phone. You can actually enroll as easy or start contributions as easy as a smartphone app, as a QR code. You know, it's very, very easy to actually begin saving in these plans. Now, why do I talk to you about if you're planning for retirement if you haven't started saving already? Well, these plans are considered defined contribution plans. And as Marie mentioned at the beginning, as kind of a summary of what these plans are, they are defined by how much money goes in. So there's not a formula. There's not a calculation. It's how much money is in there is how much you have. I have people all the time say, look, I really love these plans. Can I contribute after I retire? I'm like, oh, love the way you think. No, we can't. We can't contribute after we retire. We have to make these plans as large as possible while we're here. And of course, there's some things that really are attractive about these plans, not only making sure we have enough money for all of our years in retirement, but the things that can help us now. And this is what I'm referring to is the tax advantages that these types of retirement plans have for us. You can contribute both pre-tax and after-tax Roth into either of these accounts. You can own both accounts as a full-time contributing member to LGERS. If you're a return to work retiree, so say you've added up your income sources, everything's not kind of all working together at the same time, you might be coming back to work. Marie's going to talk to you about maybe some of the return to work considerations, but do know if you're going to come back to work in government world, state or local, you can contribute to the 457. If indeed you kind of need to set some more money aside already. So do know they're a little different. Once you actually leave full-time employment, you are no longer able to contribute to the 401k. Now, I do want to necessarily mention, especially since we have, folks talking about retirement, getting your ducks in a row, and talking about eligibility, as it were, the two plans have some different features when it comes to when you retire. So these plans are not tied to your service. They are particularly tied to both your age as well as your employment. Alrighty, so let's start with the 401k. If you're a holder of a 401k, as long as you separate government service in the year you turn age 55 or older, you would avoid penalty distribution in your 401k. So I do want to be really clear. If you're currently working at the town of Cary and you move up to working at the town of Wake Forest, absolutely fine. It's the same plan, but you've not separated government service. You have just changed employers. Okay, so separating service is a requirement to allow you access to the funds. Separating service in the year you turn age 55 or older. Now, if we have any law enforcement officers, EMS, and firefighters on the call, do know the law changed for you. It's been several years now. As long as you separate government service in the year you turn age 50 or older, you would avoid penalty distribution in your 401k. Alrighty, so it's a little different for you. As Marie had mentioned, there might be some different requirements based on necessarily your job classification. Alrighty, so law enforcement officers, EMS, and firefighters for 401k have different rules than general population than us. Alrighty, so now 457, if you're a holder of the 457, this is a governmental 457. As long as you separate service, there is never a penalty to take your funds. I know, there's never a penalty to take your funds. Can you own both plans? Sure can. Can you max out both plans? Absolutely. So if you're like me and hubby, who now have most of their family responsibilities behind them, now we're kind of just working for retirement. We're trying to save as much as we can, and we're trying to get rid of those extraneous expenses, right? We don't want to take expenses into retirement once we're starting to live on fixed income, right? No, you can contribute a lot of money to these plans. And these next few steps are really designed to answer the question, what if you've added up your income sources and you're coming up a little short? Consider contributing to the plans. You can start at any time. I do want to make sure that there are some out of sight, out of mind things. Marie has mentioned it, and I know I'll mention it too. When we talk about out of sight, out of mind, you may have started these plans 10, 20, 30 years ago when you first started service. That would be wonderful. I can tell you most pre-retirees share with me they just wish they started saving sooner. And why would they say that? Well, because they would have more money. Out of sight, out of mind things. Beneficiaries is one. It's a powerful tool. We work so hard for our money. We so hard for our benefits. If you sadly do not get a chance to use it, Marie and I really want you at the end, not right now, but at the end of the presentation, to really check on your beneficiaries. Although they can be the same, the retirement system and your 401k and 457 don't share information. You have to put it in separately. So should you own a 401k, it needs to be in there. And of course you are a participant in LGERS, you need to make sure that's going to be in there too. And just a couple of slides, Marie's going to give you some considerations for the kinds of things you want to make sure you have a designated beneficiary on. Another out of sight, out of mind is investments. How we first start saving may be completely different than what's needed to when you're going to retire and live off the funds. I really want to encourage you to reach out to your retirement education counselor. I'm one of 18 people. We are assigned to the county in which you are employed. I surely hope you know your retirement plan counselor, because we can talk to you anytime about your 401k and 457 plans. It's what we do, and it's the best part of our jobs. Alrighty, so your investments need to follow you is what this is actually saying. Consolidate. Knowing consolidation can be like a simplifying your life. As I get older, I really do see this as a value. If you've got a plan that's just kind of hanging out there and you're not necessarily managing it, by all means, there's advantages for pulling it into your accounts. And we're going to talk about that in the next slide in terms of what makes these plans, these state plans, different than retail plans. Increasing contributions regularly. As I mentioned, you have to make these things as large as possible while you're still employed. So just a little bit each year, just a little bit on your birthday. Give your future self a birthday present every year. When you get maybe a percent increase, give a little bit to the future. If you pay yourself first, we tend to then live on the remainder. I feel like I can tell you this because I'm older. We tend to live on what we take home. Alrighty, so pay yourself first to make sure you have enough money for all of your years. And last but not least, the catch-up provisions are a cool feature that the IRS provides in these plans, in that they allow us to put in a ton of money. Now, oftentimes we don't reach the ton. I mean, when I say under the age of 50, you can contribute $23,000 into these plans per calendar year, and you can own both plans. If you're over the age of 50, they looked at us and said, we got to let them catch up. They don't have enough money for all of their years in retirement. We can do $30,500 into each plan. Now, I know when you're hearing these numbers, you're thinking, Margaret, I got to eat. I got to pay my bills. And I certainly do recognize that. But one of the reasons I mention it, particularly for our short timers, is that you are indeed going to have some final payouts when you retire. Unused vacation, bonus, longevity, these are paid out in cash to you. How wonderful is that? And you can absolutely take the money. Absolutely you can. Or you can defer some, part, most, all, depending on your needs, depending on your plan, into your retirement accounts. Not only does it give it a little boost on your way out, but it also could help you tax-wise. Reduce your taxable income today if you decide to do pre-tax. It can give your Roth account that maybe you started later, like I did, a little bit of a boost on your way out. And you could do pre-tax or after-tax Roth or both. I do both. Why? I want tax help all the time. I want tax help now, and I want tax help when I'm older. Alrighty, so catch-up contributions, how you actually take a final payout and defer it to these plans. Marie had kindly, in the handout section in the navigation panel to the right of your screen, is indeed the form that's required. It's called the one-time contribution form. And what it's designed to do is not one time in your lifetime or one time per calendar year. It means for one payroll period, you want to do something different than what you normally do for your 401k or your 457 plans. And it goes back to your employer. You don't have to remember any of that. The instructions are on the form. So the one-time contribution form is the form you would provide to your employer should you wish to defer any of your final payouts. Alrighty, so as we go on to the next slide, I'm good. Julie, that is a really good question. Julie's saying, well, how do I find my counselor? Really good question, really good question. Because I said we're assigned to the county in which we're employed, right? So you're thinking, well, I kind of know what county I'm in, but how do I know which person it is? If you go to the www.myncplans.com site, www.myncplans.com, and there's a couple of web addresses we really do want to make sure you feel very comfortable that are bookmarked. That's a good one. Another one is myncretirement.com, because that's the jumping off page to Orbit. So these are all things state plans, myncplans.com, and you'll see a find a counselor tab right there. Alrighty, and it'll list the counties that we're assigned to. Alrighty, and then now here, if that wasn't cool enough, it actually has not only our telephone numbers, our email addresses, but it also then has our scheduler link. So if you'd like to make an appointment, you can pick a time that's convenient for you. Very good question. Alrighty, so what makes these plans a little different than retail plans? Plans you can just get through your brokerage, through your online, through your bank, potentially through your credit union. The supplemental plans have something that's really of value to you. And one of those is indeed the economy of scale. And what that means is we have hundreds of people that join the webinars each week. And so the thing that you have in common is that these are all the same plans. So everyone on the webinar today has the same 401k. Now you can pick your own funds and you can have your own beneficiaries, but it's the same plan. Now, what that does is it allows the treasurer and his board of trustees to really negotiate the fees that it costs to do these plans because they are so large. Because not only do they manage these plans, but they also manage the billions of dollars in your pension plan as well. So you've got not only the competitive fees of these plans, meaning they're very, very low cost, but you've got the strong oversight of the treasurer, his board of trustees, their financial advisors that get together in Raleigh every quarter and review every aspect of these plans. It's part of the plan. You don't pay for that. That's part of the plan. It's their fiduciary responsibility to manage these plans. Empower, who I work for, is the record keeper. So they provide the communications, meaning me, I get to talk to you, as well as the record keeping services. So it's not an Empower plan. It really is the state plan in terms of the 401k and the 457. Alrighty, we just we're kind of behind the scenes. Alrighty, so do know that these are advantages. When you don't have to pay fees, you get to keep the money. And I think the treasurer has done a remarkable job of really reducing the fees these last several years. When he finds a savings, he passes it on to you. Now, what does that mean? It means you get to keep the money and you get to spend it. So these are an important thing when you're considering where you want to house your nest egg, like in terms of what the costs are and what are some of the additional features are available. And there's one more feature I want to call to your attention, and that's the next slide. We polled the audience and said, hey, do you know you need to save for retirement? And most folks go, yeah, we know we need to save. And then the other question, of course, is, do you feel good about pre-tax and after-tax Roth? And most folks go, yeah, we kind of know, what the benefits are and what might be good for me. And yes, I can do both. But one of the pickles really, and the thing that causes people necessarily hesitation is investments. And I want to let you know, the reason you have investments within these plans is because of how old these plans can be. It can take 10, 20, 30 years to save. It can take 10, 20, 30 years to be in retirement, which I hope all for you. The answer is, so these can be awfully old plans. Now, you don't have to invest if you don't wish, but if you do, we want to make sure that you know, one, not only can you choose the funds yourself, but there's also investment help, and that's called Goalmaker. Goalmaker says, answer a couple questions for us, depending on where you are in this journey. Are you just starting out? Does your money have 10, 20, 30 years to actually grow? Or are you really getting towards the top of the mountain and you're looking to really start to live on these funds? You can temper your investment as well by your comfort level with investing. Are you really more of a conservative person, or more of a growth oriented or aggressive person, or you want both? You're a moderate, you're kind of right in the middle. Goalmaker actually has a very unique feature and has truly helped many pre-retirees these last couple of years of very volatile activity. And that is, Goalmaker automatically pairs out the risk of your portfolio the closer and closer you get to the top of the mountain. So that way your money is ready when you want it to be ready. You tell Goalmaker when you want to be able to live off of these funds. Now, there's been some enhancements to Goalmaker, so anyone that's on the webinar today, you know, if you're a holder of Goalmaker, Goalmaker has gone through some enhancements, and that is really to make it a smoother path for you in retirement, because we're all living so much longer in retirement. Goalmaker has actually added some more portfolios. So it gets you to the top of the mountain and beyond. As if it couldn't get any better. And Marie knows I could go on and on about Goalmaker. There is no charge for Goalmaker. There's no charge for this investment help. Alrighty, so if you're interested, reach out to your counselor, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you about what Goalmaker is, and is that something that you would want to consider. Alrighty, so I'm going to pass it back over to Marie. I'm just going to double check real quickly. I think we got the Julie's question there on the counselor. And Julie, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in chat as well for you, okay, in case we didn't get that. Marie, thanks so much. I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Margaret. All that excellent information. I need to get Goalmaker, actually. All right, so as we move on, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about the death benefits that we have. The death benefits for us right now is active employees, and then the retiree death benefits. There are some differences, so we're going to deep dive into those. So for us active employees, there are 3 types of death benefits we have if something were to happen to us as an active employee actively contributing. The first thing is there's the survivor's alternate benefit. The survivor's alternate benefit essentially allows for your beneficiary who you have designated as the primary beneficiary for the return of contributions. If these requirements are met, then that person can either get the lump sum or get a monthly check under the provisions of option 2. Remember option 2, that's the reduced payment at your death. Your beneficiary would get that same amount. Well, if these particular requirements are met, then this one person can make a choice. So the requirements for eligibility for the survivor's alternate benefit is you have not retired and you die while you are actively working or within 180 days of your last day of actual service, and you only have one beneficiary that's designated for the return of contributions that is living at the time of your death, and you have reached age 60 with 5 years of service or completed 20 years of service without using sick leave, regardless of your age. So all of those requirements would need to be met. If those requirements are met, that person can get the monthly check for their lifetime instead of a lump sum return of contributions. If those requirements are not met and you passed away while on active service, then the beneficiary that you designated, they would get return of any of your contributions that you have remaining. You can name more than one person as a principal beneficiary to split that, or you can name one principal and several contingents. You have great mobility there with making those designations. So again, homework, guys, check in your Orbit account. Once we're done, make sure you have beneficiaries designated for the return of contributions. The other final active employee benefit is the death benefit. If you are local government, which you all are, your employer would have had to have chosen to participate in the death benefit. So there's no guarantee you actually have the death benefit unless either your employer elected to be covered under that and participate in it, or if you're a law enforcement officer. So you can definitely double check with your employer or contact our office to see if you're able to get that death benefit. But mostly local government, you guys don't have it unless your employer decided to participate in it. But if they did, then yes, at your death, your beneficiary will get a year of your salary, minimum amount 25,000, but no more than 50,000. And again, you can do more than one primary beneficiary or multiple. Now, when you retire, the death benefits change slightly, okay? So the first thing we have for our retirees is the survivor benefit. We already covered those, the options 2, 3, 6, 2, 6, 3. Lifetime benefit for another person at your death. The active employee death benefit, that transitions over a little bit into retirement. So that continues for 180 days after your last day of employment. So if you retire today and you pass away next month, then if your employer elected the death benefit and you have a beneficiary designated, they would get that lump sum one-time payment of the salary, minimum amount 25, but no more than 50. And then after 180 days, if you are covered, that eventually exhausts itself because we've now went over the time frame the law states to be covered under that. The other death benefit that is available to you as a retiree is the guaranteed refund. That is in the event that you pass away and we haven't paid out all of your contributions. If you chose a monthly survivor, then both of you would need to be deceased, and we would still have to have some of your contributions remaining. Average retiree, they recover the money that they contributed in about 3 to 4 years of retirement. So eventually the guaranteed refund does exhaust itself out. So you're not going to always have that. About the first 3 to 4 years of retirement, yes, you will. So during the retirement process, you will be designating a beneficiary for that particular benefit. Then we have the optional contributory death benefit. You do have to pay for that coverage during the retirement process. When you're asked if you are interested in the coverage, there will be a dollar amount premium that you would agree to have withheld from your retirement check. And each month that amount will come out. The contributory death benefit is not life insurance, it's just a death benefit. So that premium that you pay, it won't increase, it won't decrease. Right now, the contributory death benefit is worth $10,000. In its initial inception, it started at 5, then it went to 6, then I think 8, 9, and now it's at 10. So that's a great benefit. Doesn't really cost that much. And again, you don't have to worry about that premium changing for you. Initiating retirement. This is important. Once you select that retirement date, well, how do I initiate retirement? So there are 2 ways that you can do retirement. There's the paper process and the online process. Both processing times are still the same. So online is not faster than the paper process. What's different is the amount of forms you are required to do. If you do the paper process, there's 5 to 6 forms that I believe, top of my head, need to be completed, and at least 4 of those have to be notarized. If you do the online process is in steps. It's 3 steps, and you do a lot of the decision making and setting up direct deposit and all those things is step 2 of the online process. Step 3, there's 1 form you have to complete and print it and get it notarized. So online, a little bit more streamlined because most of it is electronic except for the final piece. But I understand some people are old school and just like paper. With me, it depends on what I'm doing. Some things I'll do online, but sometimes I need to have that paper in my hand. So it's just really a comfort level for you, depending on determining which one you want to do, the online or the paper process. The online process started a couple years ago. You would need to log into your Orbit account and select the apply for retirement online option. Once you complete step 1, information will be sent to your employer. They will need to provide us your final payroll, sick leave, leave payouts. They will need to give us all that information. And then step 2, you make all your decisions, choosing your payment option, setting up your beneficiaries, direct deposit, taxes, all of those things. In step 3, there's a form you are completing saying, this is the payment option I want. getting it notarized, and returning it to us with any requested documentation. If you do decide to do the online process, you are able to track your status. Here towards the end, you see the fireworks. That means your application has been approved. So on each step, it'll let you know if you completed it. You will receive a notification email once step 2 is ready. Right now, the processing time for your calculations for submission from submission of your application is 45 to 60 days. The soonest you can initiate the retirement process is 120 days prior. I am a huge advocate for that. If you can do it, we understand that things happen and you may have to make a split decision in regards to retirement. But if you don't have to do that, those 120 days, definitely get that application into us. Reason being is because that basically gives more than enough time. If you have any questions, you can get your answers and deep dive into those questions. You can take time, make your decisions, talk it over with your family if you need to, and still be pretty much guaranteed to complete the process before your effective retirement date. Also, what's new this year is effective January 1st of 2024. First retirement checks are now direct deposited, no longer mailed, but that's provided the process has been completed before your effective retirement date. So that's another thing we want to look at with initiating the process. You want to make sure to get your first check direct deposited on schedule, that applying 120 days in advance will definitely do that for you, unless there's something grossly unseen that we didn't know was going to happen with your application, which never really happens. But you will be able to track your progress, which is important. Again, like I was saying, you will receive a notification, but you can always, if you're up in the middle of the night and you want to check on your status, you can do that. If you see step 2 is available, go ahead and complete it. So again, online is great because you can track the status. With the paper process, if you want to know the status, you'd really have to call or send us a submitted email to get a status update. But again, right now, processing time is 45 to 60 days from receipt of your application, and then you'll get your calculations where you're able to decide which payment option you want. So we have a little bit of retirement processing reminders. I'm sure you guys heard me say most of these things. Retirements are always effective the first day of the month. So you can only retire January 1st, March 1st, September 1st. You cannot retire in the middle of the month, and you are also not able to work in the same month that you are retiring. Applications, they should definitely be submitted as soon as possible, but not more than 120 days, because by law, we can only do 120 days. The good thing with the online application is it doesn't even allow you to go out farther than 120 days. So that's where it stops. So that's a plus. You know, the margin for error is low there, right? Retirement applications are processed in the order that they are received. So that's going to swing us back to those 120 days. Kind of the importance, the sooner we get it, the sooner it can be processed. And the sooner we'll get that information to you. Your first retirement payment will be issued as a direct deposit, provided your application is approved and completed before your retirement effective date. If not, and it's July 10th and you retire July 1st, and we're still trying to finish up your application, generally speaking, your first check will probably be mailed, and then direct deposit will begin the following month. A list of this year's payment dates is available on our website. We are always paid the 25th of every month. Unless the 25th is a weekend or a holiday, then we are paid the business day before, but always the 25th of the month. And December's always a little bit earlier because of the holiday. Generally the 18th through the 22nd-ish, depending on how the December calendar is for that year. But historically, as long as I've been here, by the 22nd of December you'd be paid. So December's always early, but the rest of the year, 25th of the month. And that payment date list that's on our website, you are able to print that. So you do have the option to print that. And if you want to stick it on your fridge or in a folder, if you need that information, you can definitely do so with that. So retiree health coverage and optional insurance. For the local government, the retirement system does not administer health insurance coverage. So if there's any questions about your health insurance coverage options, speak to your employer and they will inform you of your options with actual health insurance. There are a few local government agencies, top of my head, 8 of them that chose to participate in the state health plan, but generally speaking, as a whole, with local government, you guys, as your health coverage is offered through your employer. So definitely check with them on those options. We have an agency called Pierce Insurance Agency. They are the ones who provide our retirees with supplemental dental, vision, and identity theft coverage. What you have as an active employee, dental or vision wise, if you have a cancer policy, none of that transitions over to retirement. You may be eligible to continue that coverage, but that will be on a individual basis with that agency, and those premiums will not be able to be withheld from your check. So what you will want to do is check with that agency prior to retirement. Inform them, I'm going to retire, but I'm interested in continuing the coverage. Am I allowed to do so? And if so, how do I pay those premiums? But we have Pierce who offers that dental, vision, and identity theft. Once your retirement application has been completed, you will get an enrollment package from Pierce. The enrollment is optional. They do have an open enrollment period every year. You would pay the full cost of that coverage, but those premiums, that's the plus, are able to come out of your retirement check. Okay, so I have a question here, Mr. Moore. If I am already older than 55 and I have more than 5 years of service, can I keep my funds in the program and start receiving my early pension benefits once I turn 60 or older? That is a great question, and the answer is yes. As long as you're vested, the money can stay here. If you were to leave employment and move to another state, another country, the money will stay here. It will continue to gain interest at 4% compounded annually. And then once you are ready to retire, you can certainly do that or meet the eligibility requirement. What you will be, you are, Mr. Moore, at that time, a vested deferred member. You're vested, but you've chosen to defer your retirement to a later date. You wouldn't, Mr. Moore, have to do anything to do that. You would just, excuse me, just leave the account here. And you may want to check it out every now and again, see how it's growing, prepare estimates, but there's no actual action that you would need to take if that's the case. That's a great question. We get that all the time. We don't force pay you unless the IRS makes us, which they do. If the year following the year you turn 73, if you have not requested a refund or retirement of your benefits and you're not contributing, because if you're contributing, then the required minimum distribution RMD, that doesn't apply. But Mr. Moore, let's say you moved to California, you left your money here, by the year following 73, if we haven't heard anything from you, you'll get a letter from us. By IRS law, we have to pay you. But up until that point, it really is your decision. So thank you. That is a wonderful question. All right. So from Pierce Insurance Agency, that's the NC Flex. That's for our state employees. So this guy really wouldn't apply to you, but the state side, just so you're interested, they have the same thing. It doesn't transition over. They have Pierce too. They have to contact those agencies to see if they can continue that coverage. So we are going to talk about an optional transfer benefit that we have for you all for the NC 401k and 457 plan. So you have the option at retirement, if you have the NC 401k or 457 plan, you can choose to roll over all or a portion of those contributions and receive a lifetime benefit based on the amount you rolled over plus the interest rates at that time. So what you would need to do, there is a website, nclifetimeincome.org. We partner with State Employees Credit Union. This is an excellent tool. It goes over if the 401k transfer benefit is a great fit for you. If you log into your Orbit account, you can prepare estimates for that transfer benefit. And those estimates are very pretty accurate. So that's a plus. And the plus about this as well is for most employees, you don't have to do it right at retirement. So you could wait a month or two. And then if you want to decide to transfer over all of a portion of those funds, you can do that. So Mr. De Jesus, he says, where can I find the Mars statement? You have to log into your Orbit account. Once you are logged into your Orbit account, it will say my annual retirement statement. And you should see the statement. If you don't have a statement, it can only be for a few reasons. You have to contribute for the entire year prior to in order to have a statement prepared. So if you came or became a new employee or had breaks in service in 2023, you may not have a statement prepared, but you'll have a letter explaining why. Or if there was some payroll reporting issues with the employer, a statement may not be prepared for you. There is a page of our website that is dedicated to the Mars statements, and they have frequently asked questions, so you can definitely check that out. What's the benefit of rolling 401k or 457 into a retirement account? So Ms. Donna, the benefit of that is you are able to get a lifetime check based on what you are rolling over. The link, Miss Sally, it's nclifetimeincome.org. That's dedicated for the transfer benefit. Wealth of information there. Mr. Moore, do you pay taxes if you roll over NC 401k into the pension account? Unfortunately, yes, you do. That doesn't go anywhere. I'm sorry. I wish I could say no, but you do have to pay taxes on that if you do decide to do that transfer benefit. And I think I missed a question. Miss Elaine, if I retire 30 years from the city, then decide to work for the county, how does my retirement work from that? That's return to work. I was going to cover that, but I'm not going to let you go without answering that question. It's a separate system, so it doesn't matter. You could retire from local government and the very next day work full-time contributing for the teachers and state system. You'll just be getting a check from local government, working in teachers and state. Well, what happens is once you decided, okay, teachers and state, I'm done working here, then at that time, you can either choose to retire from the teachers and state and receive a smaller check, or you can pull that money out. But it's two separate systems, so nothing really happens with that. Let me make sure I got all my questions. Okay. If I retired at 50 with 20 years, could you do the transfer benefit and not be penalized? I believe you can, Margaret. That's correct, right? I don't think that there's anything wrong. No, I don't think you're penalized at all.
Bobby,
Because you're
there's not an
retired.
age requirement. Right, that's exactly right, Marie. There's not an age requirement. And so the actual transfer itself is not penaltied, and it's not necessarily taxed at that time. But as Marie mentioned, you pay taxes, so it's going to come out in this monthly thing, just like you're paying taxes on your pension. But there's no requirement for age when you do the transfer benefit. And it's only available at retirement or later. If you're law enforcement, there might be some specific requirements for you. Even the estimator has like a LEO. I know everything's an acronym, right, Marie? A LEO,
Right.
meaning law enforcement officer. that has some different requirements depending on your vesting date. But no, it is not a penalty thing, even if necessarily you're too young. You know what I mean? In terms of overall transfer benefit is different. It's actually just taking money from one plan and putting it into the other, and now you're going to get a separate lifetime check.
Yep, based on that. So good thing Margaret was here to answer that question. And then there's another question I think for you up here. And then Margaret's going to come in and talk about moving some money around in regards to the NC 401k. But she's definitely going to look at that question. So go ahead, Margaret, take it away.
That'd be great. Thank you so much, Marie. And by all means, as we talk about the transfer benefit, it is indeed an example of how the plans work together. Is it right for everyone? No. Is it going to be good for some? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can see where it might be advantageous if indeed you're adding up your income sources and you're coming up a little short. You're still going to want to eat. You're still going to want to pay your bills in retirement. Having the transfer benefit gives you a separate lifetime income. You're literally taking your pre-tax assets in 401k or 457 or both and making them a little mini pension. So that's the really good news. Now, the negative news, though, is that if indeed you get a new roof quote and you need to get some money, you can't call Marie and say, Marie, hey, I sent all that money over to retirement system. I need some of it back for the roof. You just have to save up your checks at that point. So that's where the lifetime income, the nclifetimeincome.org site can be so helpful, because it not only tells you what it is, but it tells you really considerations if you should do it. That's not something Marie and I can really do. We can tell you you can do it, but should you do it is a whole different question. And that's where that can really be very helpful. So if you're interested in transfer benefit, I would definitely screenshot this page for the websites there. Alrighty, so as we go on to the next page, because we did indeed have some rules and considerations in terms of 401k, you know, as you retire. So no worries there. We're gonna get to your question, John, when it comes to just considerations for you and everyone really holding a 401k. So when you retire and you separate government service, you have access to your funds. Now you have access to your funds penalty free if you qualify with the 401k to be a certain age. Already, so to be clear, if you're law enforcement officer, EMS, and firefighter, already, you have to separate service in the year you turn age 50 or older. You would find this information on the website, the myncplans.com site, www.myncplans.com. There's highlights, there's information about the plans, and they will tell you that there's an exception available for you to an exception, meaning an exception for the penalty. So if you're not law enforcement, EMS, or firefighter, and you're not age 55, and you want to take your 401k money out, you can, but there'd be a 10% penalty. There's a few other exceptions for the penalty rules, and sometimes it's, you know, situations like medical expenses and things of that nature. But for the most part, if you're too young to take out retirement money, the IRS does indeed make it really yucky. And they do that on purpose to discourage us from using retirement money for non-retirement reasons. So when you separate service, that is a trigger to allow you access, but it doesn't mean you have to. Talking to pre-retirees every day, there's a misconception that they have to move their money. They do not. That indeed there's something that occurs to them, and there really isn't. You are a participant in these plans. You're just no longer actively employed. So on your little profile, instead it says active employment, it says terminated/retired, meaning you're no longer able to contribute money to these plans. Alrighty, so nothing happens to the funds within the plans. They remain invested as you wish. And of course, you direct that. They remain tax deferred. Now, the important point of this one particular bullet is indeed something I want to make sure I bring to your attention. And you guys were really on that with some of your questions already. When you save pre-tax money, it comes right off of your gross pay and goes right into the accounts. No money has ever been assessed for taxes on that contribution, nor the earnings growth and compounding. It's all been hanging out. You know you've not gotten a 1099 from us as a saver in these plans each year because it's not a taxable event. it does reduce your taxable income now. Now, your employer contribution, I want to make sure you're aware, and who doesn't love free money? The answer is that's considered pre-tax as well. And the reason I tell you this is really because what happens to you when you actually then do decide to withdraw those funds for that new roof quote. All right, so you're going to retire this year. That new roof is going to be an arm and a leg, right? So you're going to take money out of your 401k. Absolutely fine. We withhold money for federal and state taxes. And in 2025, you would receive from us what's called a 1099-R, showing that money has been withdrawn from the account. So to be clear, tax deferred means the money remains tax deferred until we withdraw it. Okay, until we withdraw it. That's for both your pre-tax contributions as well as your employer contributions. Now, if you saved after tax Roth, you've already paid taxes on the contribution already, so you've already paid taxes there. It's the earning, growth, and compounding that are all free of taxes. And when you save Roth in either account, and you can do Roth in either account, you absolutely can. They do have their own, it has its own requirements. You have to be 59 and a half, and you have to own the first contribution for at least 5 years for all those earnings to be free of taxes. But I do really like hearing free of taxes, so I usually do say it at least once or twice. Alrighty, so you can manage your pre-tax and after-tax Roth money differently depending on your needs. Alrighty, so really nothing happens to your account until you actually start withdrawing the funds and starting to live on those. I would indeed encourage you to, and you can see how this can work. You may qualify for your pension well before you have access to your 401k and way before you have access to Social Security. So it's important for you to kind of get an idea about when things occur for you. And, you know, when would I have access to these funds without a penalty? Because we want you to, we encourage you to consider that, because you get to keep more of your money if you don't have to pay penalties to be able to assess it. Do know that we talked about simplifying your planning. Obviously, that's something that's just a matter of paperwork, and it's getting easier actually in terms of really even giving verbal instructions to, say, for example, your old employer to go ahead and just move the funds to your current plan already. If you're looking at trying to compare your fees of your plans, then know that there's actually some fee comparison sheets. I'd reach out to your counselor for help on that as well. It's available on both of our websites, the NC Plans as well as the ncretirement.com site, cost comparison tool, because it is a really important thing considering how long you're necessarily going to, you know, utilize these funds. Do know the only thing I'll mention about transfer benefit that we haven't done already is that the only assets you can use are pre-tax assets in a North Carolina 401k, in a North Carolina 457. So should you necessarily have a plan at your employer that is not a North Carolina plan, know you have to have a North Carolina plan open before you retire. Alrighty, you can certainly transfer it in after you retire, because if you're not law enforcement, you can do it anytime at retirement or later, but you have to have an active plan while you're still employed. If you retire, leave service, we have a couple folks that are going to be leaving service for years, you can't set up a plan then. You're not actively employed. So transfer benefit would not be an option for you. Alrighty, so just to make sure you're good on that. Now, as we go to the next one, this is actually then kind of a summary. One, you don't have to do anything. You know, you are a participant in these plans, and we certainly understand the role of these plans for you in your retirement. Do know that there is an IRS rule that basically says if you've not taken even just little bits of your money out by the time you turn the magic age of 73, this is actually referred to as RMD, required minimum distribution. We calculate that for you and we send it because the penalty is just really yucky. It's like 25% of what you owe. So rest assured, we calculate it, we let you know what needs to come out, and that needs to come out then at age 73 or older. Now, if you're not retiring relatively soon, there's going to be some rules changing for RMD within the next couple of years. So do know that some of these rules do change. You know, I know Marie has mentioned at the beginning, look, this is the current law, and that's exactly what we state too. But do know by the time you retire, things might be a little bit different. So we want to make sure we call to your attention some of the rules that are out there regarding retirement plans. When you do separate service, that does allow you to put it somewhere else. That's called a rollover. That doesn't mean taking the money out and spending it now. It just means putting it in another retirement plan, either another employer, either an IRA, Or if you're going within state or local government, then by all means, state or local government, it's the same plans. You just let us know where you are. And of course, last but not least, you can begin withdrawals. When you actually do, separate service, retire, you can set them up really in any way that's helpful for you. And this is probably their biggest advantage, is that you can keep them for future use, like a little nest egg down the road. You can set up something on a regular basis, let's say a systematic basis where you're taking money out every month, every quarter, every year. The answer is you can absolutely do that. Now, the more you ask your money to do, it might be paperwork or something like that, with ABA and routing numbers, but beginning withdrawals are its claim to fame in that you determine what and when you take these out. And of course, transfer benefit we had mentioned several times, so just know that that's available option then at retirement. Alrighty, so plan withdrawal options. Maria, I think we're all caught up on questions still. Yep. Okay, very good.
Yep, I think we're safe because he had the question about the 401k and rules for firefighters.
Yep,
That's the only one I saw.
401k.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. So I would go on the website, absolutely, John. Go on the website and you can find the information that you seek. There is an exception for the 10% penalty based on your employment. And so you do want to make sure you got your ducks in a row and understand how that works if indeed you are in that situation. Alrighty.
All right. Thank you, Margaret.
Of course.
So as we move along, we're going to talk about returning to work. And we covered it a little bit, retiring from local government, working in teachers and state, really no requirements, two separate systems. If you want to work in private industry, you can definitely do that. The best way to say it is if you are retiring from local government and you want to go back to an employer who participates in the local government system, that is where the rules and requirements come into play. There is a 1 month sit out period. So for the full month of retirement, if I'm retiring from city of Raleigh, I can't go and work for the town of Cary in that same month. I have to do my 1 month sit out. But once I have done that 1 month sit out, then I can return to work in a part-time, temporary, or contractual basis with another local government employer, or even the same employer, as long as the position is part-time, temporary, or contractual. And then there is a annual earnable allowance. The earnable allowance is the greater of 50% of your salary in the 12 months prior to retirement, or the amount set by law. So whichever one of those two is higher, that would be your earnable allowance. The amount set by law for 2024 is $40,980. So if I retire from the city of Raleigh, I sit out for 1 month. After that 1 month, I can work part-time for the city of Raleigh again, for example, and just do not exceed my earnable allowance. If with the earnable allowance and the return to work, if the position requires you to work 1,000 hours or more per week for a calendar year, you would need to make some decisions. The key word is require. So if you get that job and they tell you you have to work 1,000 hours or more, that meets the definition for contributing to the local government system. You cannot contribute and receive a retirement benefit. So in that instance, you would have to make a decision. Do you want to suspend your retirement and work and contribute? Or do you want to find something else or see if you can get a part-time position or just go back to a different employer? So that is a huge piece, that the position you work cannot require 1,000 hours or more, because then that's sliding into you contributing, and now we have decisions to make. Got a question. Let me see. Say I work for Cumberland County Schools for 5 years, then moved to the city of Fayetteville, then eventually to the Office of State Budget. Is all of my time cumulative towards retirement? or are they all separate? So what you're talking about is reciprocity. Um, all of that time, so Cumberland County Schools is teachers and state. Top of my head, Office of State Budget would be teachers and state. And then City of Fayetteville will be local government. So generally speaking, all of that service can be used. This is called reciprocity to help you meet retirement eligibility. However, the amount that you receive and what goes into the formula will only be based on what's in that particular system. So if you have the you say 5 years with Cumberland County Schools, and then so that's teachers and state, and then you have local government, City of Fayetteville for let's say 10 years. So we're at 15 years, right? And then you come back Office of State Budget, that's teachers and state. So let's say you do another 5 years there. So in total, you have 20 years, but you have in each system 10 years. So the 20 years can make you eligible for early retirement as long as you're 50. But the money will be calculated based on what's in teasers and what's in LGERS. I hope that makes sense, Miss Christina. That was a good question, though. That was very good. So keep those questions coming. That's excellent. We get that question all the time. Also, with returning to work, you can volunteer in a bona fide position with no loss of benefits. So when we say volunteer, we mean volunteer. You cannot take a position that is normally paid for and then they make it unpaid for you for 2 months until you went over the waiting period, and then when you come back after the waiting period, then they start paying you. No, that's not how that works, unfortunately. That position has to always be unpaid. So just remember, volunteer means that if they've ever paid anybody for that position, that's not considered volunteer. You have to do your 1 month sit out. And again, believe I covered this, but you can work for an employer that does not participate in the system for which you retired. So you retire from local government June 1st, June 2nd. If you have a teachers and state job, go ahead, work for the teachers and state full time, and you'll still get your local government retirement. So we have our Orbit. Orbit is your lifeline. It really becomes more of a lifeline when you actually retire. For us active employees, you can prepare retirement estimates. We don't, we have appointments where we explain the retirement process, but in those appointments, estimates are not prepared. So if you would like to schedule an appointment to discuss the retirement process, we can do that, but we will not be preparing calculations during that. So you would need to either go into Orbit and prepare your estimate and then bring it in, then we can discuss it at that time. You can prepare service purchase estimates in Orbit. The 401k 457 transfer benefit, that's located in Orbit. Your Mars statements, again, those should be available by the end of April. And then the online retirement application for you as a retiree, huge resource, huge lifeline. You can view your account information, your payroll history, change direct deposit, change your tax withholdings, obtain your 1099-R. If you need that income letter to get a loan for the roof, like Margaret was talking about, you can pull that from Orbit. So Orbit, your Orbit self-service account, allow me to be more specific, has a lot of things that you can do in that account and will help you, especially, once you've retired. I have a question here. If I reach the service, my birthday is the 3rd of the month. If I reach the service years requirement on the 1st of that month, would my retirement date be the 1st of that month? Or would I have to wait until the 1st of the next month? Mr. Bill, well, that depends on what requirement you're trying to reach. In this instance, if you were turning 60 and having the 5 years of service, you'd have to wait till the first of the next month because your birthday is on the third and not the first. 30 years of service, your age doesn't matter. If you're trying to do age 60 and have 25 years, because you can only retire the first of any month, you'd have to wait till the next month because you have to be 60 as of the first of that month and not turning 60 in that month, if that makes sense. The same thing with age 50 and 20 years of service. If you want to retire June 1st and your birthday is June 3rd, you won't be 50 as of June 3rd. So you'd have to wait till July. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Bill. And I think I don't have any more questions. Let me see. Nope, we're good with the questions. Okay, great. All right. So this is the Orbit landing page. When you go to myncretirement.com and select Orbit, you'll see your username, your password. If you forgot your username and password, you can recover that information. Right here to the right of the login information is the estimator, so you can see the retirement benefit, the service purchase, and the 401k 457 transfer benefit estimator. And if you need any forms, you can print the forms from the website. When you log into Orbit, this is what your Orbit account looks like. You'll see the message from the treasurer with his picture, the green boxes, and the menu on the left-hand side. It's the same options, just placed in different places. But you can see you can apply for retirement, view your account history, your contributions, prepare estimates. We can actually maintain our beneficiaries in Orbit. So that's something you want to look at. You can request balance statements, all type of things. So again, Orbit is a wonderful resource. Then you have the estimator. So you can either prepare an estimate using your age or the retirement date and the termination date. Just a quick note, your termination date cannot be before your retirement date, otherwise you'll get an error message. And then service status. In service is if you are currently working and contributing and you want the estimate to be prepared as if you're working up until that date. But like you were saying, Mr. Moore, about leaving service and then retiring, if you want an estimate like that based on the service that you have in the system, you will want to change the service status to out of service. And that'll give you more of an accurate estimate, because if it's in service, it's going to calculate your service as if you're working and contributing up until that point. So Margaret is going to come in and going to talk about the retirement income calculator for you all.
Just very, very briefly, the retirement income calculator is a very cool tool. Now, I got to tell you, I really do like the estimators too, because of course you want to know what your monthly benefit's going to be. You want to know if you necessarily qualify for purchasing service, what it's going to cost you. You want to know what your transfer benefit number is. You're going to know right from there if that's something you want to do. So the estimators are a very, very cool tool. When you log into Orbit, it knows who you are as well. So there's some things that it already, populates for you. So you have this information in terms of how much you're going to get on a monthly benefit. You have already set up your SSA.gov. You know what you're going to get at Social Security. And you're thinking, how do I put all this stuff together? The answer is the retirement income calculator tool, or the lifetime income score tool now, has been incredibly enhanced. And this is because we need a place to make sure we're making the decisions we need to make today to make sure that we are set by the time we want to go ahead and stop working. Log into your 401k. If you've not actually set up the new username and password yet, I really want to encourage you to go in to the myncplans.com site. You want to be able to click, log in or access to my account, and you're going to register your account. It's going to make you do another username and password since we have had the upgrade already. But do know it's worth the effort as soon as you see the lifetime income tool, because you can add the pension information. You can double check your Social Security that, in terms of, is that going to be accurate? And you can link other accounts that you have designated for real-time estimates. It's a very, very helpful tool to make sure you are retirement ready. So if you have any questions, certainly feel free to reach out to your retirement plan counselor. Marie knows I could actually, no, other than GoalMaker, because that's kind of a favorite, retirement income calculator is right up there, because these are the tools to answer your questions. That's why we like these tools, to answer your questions. So get familiar with some of these things, because of course this can be very, very helpful for you. Now Marie's got some helpful reminders for you as we kind of close some things out.
Yep. Thank you guys for sticking with me. We're about to close it out. So remember homework, update your beneficiaries. Me and Margaret both talked about that. Told you guys at the top of the presentation it was going to be a running theme. Make sure your beneficiaries are how you want them to be. Let's create that Social Security Administration account. That has a big bearing on retirement, as a whole. All of our resources. We have our handbooks, myncretirement.com. There are video tutorials. If you need help with navigating Orbit or using it, there's videos and step-by-step instructions for that information. We also have an NC Able plan, and this is an account that's designed for those with the occurrence of disability before the age of 26, and it allows those individuals the opportunity to save and fund for different disability expenses while they're still getting their Medicaid, SSI, and anything else that gives them that public support. So if you are interested in that plan, please see NC Able or visit ncable.org, and it'll go over the eligibility and features of those benefits. If you need to contact us, you can visit our website, myncretirement.com, email us, nc.retirement@nctreasurer.com or ncretirement@nctreasurer.com. We have our telephone number, 919-814-4590. Our address, if you're going to mail some documentation or wanted to just, if you're in the area, had a form you wanted to drop off, we are accepting forms only. That will be 3200 Atlantic Avenue. And then you may want to follow our Facebook page. A lot of information goes up there. Email blasts, anything that's going on with the system, we put on and post on Facebook as well. I do want to thank you all for just spending some time with us this morning, talking about your local government retirement. I hope you all have a wonderful day. We want to thank you for your service with the state of North Carolina and congratulate you all on your upcoming retirement. Enjoy the Friday Eve. No, today's Friday, technically speaking, because we don't have to work tomorrow. So enjoy, have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.